Focused and love what you believe in, how to achieve all your dreams. Keep moving forward, never accept less than who you are. Live your best life, be strong and free. It's back.
The Hits Back with Nahaja Black is sponsored by the Cancer Treatment Centers of America and Burger King.
It's back with Nahaja Black. It's back with Nahaja Black.
Good afternoon, Bahamas, and welcome to the Hit Back. I'm your host, Nahaja Black. I hope that everybody's doing well, taking care of yourself, living your best life today. I hope that we are, trying to be our best person today. We got a lot of news for you. I got some special guests. I got my good friend C.A. Nuri coming on to join me in a few minutes. But we also have, a special guest, Chris Curry. Dr. Chris Curry from the University of the Bahamas is now the new director of the AMMC, Antiquities, Museums, Monuments Corporation. And that's actually pretty good. I'm excited to have this discussion because, I've had questions of what is the purpose of AMMC. Not in the purpose in terms of insulting the corporation itself, no, but in that what is its role in charting us towards this green, this next level economy that we keep talking about, this orange economy we keep discussing. And so that's important there too. COVID numbers, and decline is a tough one. Decline, I don't know if you can say that, but we have had Deputy Chief Medical Officers say that they're hopeful, or they're kind of hoping that we've reached our peak, and then the numbers are going to be trending down. And that would be good. That would be exciting if we start to see the numbers trending down, because those numbers trending down means that we can get back to business, that we can start to be, not get back to business because we never stopped business, but that we can find ourselves in a healthier space. That's important. Also, the president of the Bahamas Bar, Khalil Parker, has said something very interesting. New Khalil Parker QC. Sorry, the brother got a QC. Love that man. I think he's fantastic, brilliant, another great Bahamian, where he's calling to say, listen, we need to do a public inquiry into the executive powers. And I think that that's a fascinating discussion. And he'll be joining us in about 7 minutes to really dive into that. What does that mean? Why do we need a public inquiry into that? Why do we need this sort of level of discourse? I don't know if you remember early on into it, Dame Joan Sawyer had a very strong problem and issue with it. What happens with this new variation? No longer do we have the executive powers, right, that we had before, where there was a competent authority. But we've transferred some of those powers to the Ministry of Health. So there is a difference. But I'm curious as to his thoughts on that as well. So that's interesting as well. Have you been following? So Spain now is saying, listen, we're going to have to pandemic versus endemic. Europe slowly starts to consider treating COVID like the flu, and saying that we're going to have to live with it. That is interesting. Cannabis is now being seen as some sort of but possible research coming out of a university in the States that is saying that cannabis, certain parts of it, CBD and CBG, are connecting to the spike proteins of COVID-19 and kind of shutting it down. Well, all the potheads got excited, boo. Everybody now want that cannabis, cannabis, what's the thing? I can't remember it now. I had a long mental day. But, that legislation, that's the word. Everybody wants the cannabis legislation now because we got to weed it out. Snoop Dogg is going to be legend. Snoop Dogg will be I Am Legend while the rest of us are dead or zombies, because Snoop gonna be cannabinized. That's not a real word. Cannabinoid. He gonna be cannabis inundated. He gonna be high. But they're saying though, it's not smoking it. It is eating it. So it's the edibles, right? So you have to eat it. You can't smoke it. You can't rub it on. It would have to be through edibles. That this cannabis treatment is delivered to patients with COVID. So if you've ever had an edible, I'm not saying that I have, but those things can be quite potent. And so that's going to be interesting as well to have this discussion on whether or not marijuana around the corner is going to be helpful in the fight against COVID. Now you have more of Bill Gates talking as well. Bill Gates is saying that, and it's always odd that Bill Gates is speaking a lot about it, but billionaires can talk about anything and we'll listen. You just got that amount of money. So Bill Gates is now, of course, he's been in this discussion for a long time. It was between Bill Gates and 5G towers for the reason why we all getting COVID anyway. So Bill Gates decided, I'm going to keep talking. And so Bill Gates is now continuing to talk. And he's saying, Omicron will then create this flu-like, impact on us. It'll be just like a common cold. Let Omicron do its business. And we're like, no, duh. We hear you. Here is the argument, though. Here's the argument. If you're into conspiracy theories, which I'm kind of digging. I like conspiracy theories just for the sheer amount of conspiracy theories that exist. But I like it for good fodder. Like, I really do believe, like, there's a good portion of us as Bahamians who believe that the hail in Arthurstown was a sign of end times. There was scripture on it. I'm sure that there's a good portion of us who can recall a prophecy where somebody said that the weather's going to be wonky, and that's it. Pack your bags, people. Season up. We only got to the end of the year. Rapture coming. I don't know, a whole bunch of Christians just ready for the rapture, but always scared. But I digress. Anyways, here is a conspiracy theory that I think I'm digging. I am digging certain conspiracy theories. Here is one. This will be right up my alley of a conspiracy theory that I like. And the one right up my alley that I think I like, ladies and gentlemen, is that, listen, you ain't gonna make more money. The fat cats can't make as much money as they'd like to make if all of us die or we just stop spending money. So they got to create a variant like Omicron that can help get rid of the Delta, make us better, and we go back to living the lives because they really absorbed as much money as they can out of this pandemic. And a lot more scientists are saying this ain't making no kind of sense. How we could go to the fourth booster. How many boosters can you give people without them losing an eye or start twitching in their upper lip? How many more? We're losing folk. Even the Fox-leaning folk are saying, the Democrats are saying we're going too far. I think that's what's happening, y'all. I think, as my conspiracy theory hat has been put on where the foil is to the very tip, that we've reached an economic crescendo where those who have are saying, I got enough. We don't need to kill anybody else. It's all good. I think we've frightened them enough. And now we're losing some doctors. Now we're losing some scientists. Now the darn WHO is not on our side. I could live with this sort of stuff. I think that that's my conspiracy theory hat. I like it. I think it's beginning to add up, makes sense. So that's other things that's going on there. So when we're talking Omicron, Omi be gone. Like, I don't know. It's just, so between weed gonna be a cure, we all gonna get it. And so it's just gonna be an endemic. Whoop, there it is. It's a cold. No, it's a flu. No, it's Omicron. No, it's the rapture. It's a lot of things. And I'm just telling you, a lot of us are just exhausted. Just let it be over. That would be the goal there. So, just keep your mind and you just be cool. Be cool. Someone says, looks at Nahaja's side eyes about edibles. I'm just saying, I've not had I've never said I had an edible, but I will say that those who've had edibles have found themselves very sleepy very quickly. Don't do edibles, people, unless you're supervised by other adults. Be an adult that is supervised by other adults who wish to drive and make it home alive. Even adults are stupid with edibles. I figured that out. There's something I don't understand. The medical professionals who called any criticism of the COVID narrative conspiracy theory haven't lost any credibility when the conspiracy was proven true. Exactly. And that is how you know we all crazy. It is what it is. Why we even try? Why even have feelings on it? Don't even have feelings. It is what it is. At the end of the day, let's just go ahead. The person who recorded Bill Gates' flight plane tail number and put it on Reddit, we still don't believe you. Remember, just as a side note, do you remember when Bill Gates was supposedly here and he paid off the former administration to, I don't know what it was. Was it to give us COVID or was it to give us a vaccine? I don't know. I can't keep up. All I got to say is I don't even care. But Bill Gates got enough money where we stop and we listen. I'm telling you. And Jeff Bezos, totally not related other than rich people conversation. Anybody notice how much muscles Jeff Bezos got now? Like Jeff Bezos in COVID is fit. My husband would say he like ripped like a Joneser. Bahamian Joneses are ripped. I have yet to see a Bahamian Joneser not ripped. But anyways, we got to take a break. When we come back, let's talk some sense. I want to bring on with me one of the newest QCs, right? Quality control from the bar, Doctor, Attorney, QC, Khalil Parker. We'll be bringing him on after the break. And my good friend, C.A. Nuri, will be joining us. Someone said it's not conspiracy theory, it's logical thinking. It's okay to question doctors' protocols and recommendations. I'm totally with you. But when I start questioning stuff, all of a sudden, I get people say I'm crazy. We'll be back after this.
Can offer you a value combo, but at Burger King Nassau, we offer you value and flavor. Introducing BK's $5 barbecue meal deal, where you can get your choice of barbecue chicken junior or barbecue Whopper junior with cheese plus fries and a drink for only $5, including VAT. That's right. Go to any of Burger King Nassau's 7 convenient locations and enjoy value plus barbecue in a $5 combo. The barbecue chicken junior and barbecue Whopper junior meal deals are only available at Burger King Nassau, where taste is king.
When I got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live at Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. That's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Someone says it's a virus. It mutates. It is what it is. Protect yourselves. Totally get you. Totally got you. Good afternoon to everybody who's tuning in online as well. Don't forget you can follow, like, share the show, Facebook and YouTube. You can go to our Facebook page, Nahaja. I can't remember. You can Facebook, type in the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. You can go on YouTube as well. Subscribe, hit the bell so that the notifications show up as well. I got joining me, my good friend. Wait, I didn't see now. You got to see which one raised their head to think that they are the bestest of friends, because both are behind the backstage. But I'm going to bring on my good friend first. I had to do this, Khalil. I had to put him on first, because if I didn't, then there would be hell to pay. C.A. Nuri. What's up, buddy?
Because Mr. Parker is a QC now doesn't mean he was to be introduced first. I am your friend. I am the guest co-host, and this is our community. He's a bad guest. I'm gonna welcome him. I'm gonna welcome Mr. Parker because I'm happy for him. Right, and most competent, and he deserves such a prestigious. No, I spread it thick now.
No, but yeah, because now because the welcome was seeming a little static. It was seeming a little bit of pinch.
Yes, it's spreading thick. But I'm just happy to know that I still continue to mean a lot to you, that you decided to introduce me first.
Yeah. You know, I know how this is, and you know, my other
Well,
good friend, the QC,
don't make
understands
it be
law
as
well
great now.
enough. Huh?
Don't
I can
make
hear
his
you.
introduction be as grand now.
Wait, it's going to be bigger. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you as I shrink the size of Cecil's image so that I can bring on my bigger guest, the gentleman who is now the Queen's Counsel, deservedly so, of the Bahamas, and also the president of the Bahamas Bar Association and friend of the show, none other than Mr. Khalil D. Parker himself. QC, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Cecil, for your humble accommodation and your gracious introduction.
I remember Mr. Parker's being normal when I could call him by his first name. Now I have to call him Mr. Parker to show respect. But he and I were once close friends and buddies.
No more. You can't.
Not no more.
No, you can't.
No more.
No. That's season over. You have to actually now. You can't. You know, when you would normally sit in the car together, that's not happening anymore.
Yes.
I still count you a friend. You know, I know you're trying to get me to confirm it on national radio.
Okay, I feel much better. I can
boost
myself now and let Nahaja continue with the interview once you acknowledge my presence that you know me.
Yes, I do indeed.
Listen, I apologize, Khalil. I tell you, I'm sorry, QC. I tell you one thing here, that you know, I appreciate you on short notice taking the time out to join me on the show today, because I read the article that was written by Jasper Ward in The Guardian today, where there was a call to, and Cecil, I'm going to put you right in the background for a quick second, where there was a call really by yourself today, representing the bar, for an inquiry with regards to the emergency powers. And I had it open because I wanted to read a statement, a part of it, which you shared. And what was stated here was, Parker said, as a nation, we continue to grapple with the myriad logistical and legal implications of life in the midst of a global pandemic. We have thankfully seen the expiry of the emergency orders and have returned to somewhat normal constitutional function. However, as today's fully virtual ceremony demonstrates, we remain subject to the serious public health considerations raised by a virus that is far from being in retreat. Yet still, we must continue to demonstrate the fortitude necessary to see ourselves and our fellow Bahamians through this ordeal. The emergency powers regime ended, and the health services COVID-19 prevention and management of community spread rules regime commenced under the Health Services Act on the 13th day of November AD 2021. While the impact may not be felt in our day-to-day lives, and although it was an important step to our journey to normalcy, it ought not cause any complacency on our part as guardians of the rule of law and partners in the administration of justice. The emergency powers regime involves significant and substantive interference with the liberty, lives, and livelihoods of every Bahamian citizen, resident, and visitor throughout its duration. It is therefore essential that a clear account be given of our national response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the decisions made under the emergency powers regime. I therefore call on the government to, as a matter of urgency, establish an independent public inquiry into the Bahamas' pandemic response. And that's where I would like for us to continue there. That is something I didn't see, Parker, QC Parker, with I didn't see it coming. Tell me now, from that statement, why do we need to do this?
Well, the reality is that we, as a planet, have been faced with what they call a once-in-a-century virus, a once-in-a-century pandemic that has caused us to trigger draconian, I might say, constitutional powers that has, as we all experienced for months on end, kept us indoors, suspended some of our liberties, and we've seen tragically the loss of livelihoods, and more importantly, the loss of lives. And we were under the jurisdiction of a competent authority, suspending the normal operation of cabinet, government, and parliamentary accountability. it is very important that as citizens, we ensure that when you invoke these powers, when we as people join with you and accept the realities that we faced and do our part and comply, that you come back to us when the emergency has passed and we examine and we go through what has transpired and we ensure that lessons are learned and we ensure that the proper decisions were taken on for proper reasons and that an account is given. We owe it to those who have passed, we owe it to those who are still here, and we owe it to those who are coming behind us to ensure that the experience that we endured with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic is fully explored and that the book can be opened and closed on it and that we are not taking these things casually. It is not a casual thing to put us under curfew. It is not a casual thing to put us under lockdown. It is not a casual thing for us to be watching friends, family, and loved ones pass and not be able to visit and all these other things that we have experienced. It was a serious event, and our relief at moving beyond it cannot absolve the government of the responsibility for accounting for what actually happened. We have turned over responsibility for our stewardship to those in power, and they owe it to us to explain. And I am not content to let the cut and thrust of parliamentary debate, such as it is, be the be all and end all of our report on what has happened. I think it is very important that we revisit what has happened so that we can learn the lessons and avoid, hopefully, the worst elements of it.
You know what? I think this is such a powerful position. Khalil Parker, QC, joining us here on the show. Why I think it's such a powerful position is because due to the fact of all that you've mentioned, right? The law and this pandemic has led to some very unique situations. And in our lifetime and in the lifetime of our children, we probably won't see something like this. This is probably 100-year event, in essence, of this sort of, these shifts, these changes. The question of one's civil liberties, as you mentioned, the constitutional right to move. We were finding people being arrested to try and make a living, or just going out accosted, trying to, dump your garbage outside of your gate. There was the question of, can I go outside at night? And there were actual disagreements between former Supreme Court justices on what should be allowed in the context of the law. Mm-hmm. And I thought that all of that leads to the question of a public inquiry and its purpose. Like what should come out of this public inquiry? Because are we talking about challenging who should have certain powers? You
recall, and I think that you played host to some of the debates, I think that, of the litigation and the various writs that were filed during that time. I don't believe that litigation really will bring the answers and get to the core of the issues that we want to explore. And I think that, as you highlighted, it was not without controversy. We do have a tendency to look back with potentially rose-colored glasses and say, well, thank God we made it. But it was something that people actually had concerns about. And as president, as bar counsel, it was something where we did let the public health considerations take front seat. But it was never with a view to not going back and making sure that we explore and we traverse this issue and we answer the questions that the public is entitled to have answers to. And it's not as narrow as dealing with all of the pressure points. I think that the pandemic response was wide ranging. And I think that at the end of the day, the experiences and the hardships and the logistical decisions taken by the government on our behalf or by the competent authority on our behalf were wide ranging. And we need to really get to grips with what it was that was done in our name. And so I would not limit it to just the questions of liberty, but there are economic questions. There are public health questions in terms of the readiness of the hospital and the deployment of medical staff and how we handled what went on or did not go on in the family of violence. So there and how we went about procuring vaccines and all of these things. So I think at the end of the day, the real issue here is that when confronted, we say it's once in a century, but for me, it is very important that governments now and governments in the future know that it is not a casual thing to declare a state of emergency. It is not a casual thing to put us under those restrictions and conditions. And when you do so, we revisit it and we explore it. And so for me, it is incumbent. It's a part of the narrative. There is an external shock. There is the response. And then there is the exploration and analysis so that we can all achieve closure as a people with respect to this very significant event. If we don't do this, will the average member of the public understand fully what was done and how we got where we got? Will the answers bubble to the surface through any other means? I think that there's no way that we can genuinely say to ourselves that we have closed this chapter if we don't officially explore it and get the answers. I'm not going to circumscribe it. I think that the whole enterprise, the whole experience is on the table for analysis. Of obviously, it coming from a public health perspective, that is the genesis, that is obviously the starting point, and it permeates from there.
If you're just tuning in, President of the Bahamas Bar Council, Khalil Parker QC, joining us on the show. So then, it goes back to one of the questions asking earlier, the outcomes of these public inquiries. Because what you've mentioned now, Khalil, is that, hey, listen, this is an entire scope. This is not a commission of inquiry, right? This is a public inquiry.
Well, a commission of inquiry is a public inquiry.
Is this similar to that? Or are we saying, who done it?
They can potentially exercise their powers under the Commissions of Inquiry Act and create, because under that act, they would be able to dictate the remit and the scope of what it is that they want to look into. And the commissioners under that process would have the requisite powers to summon and do what they need to do to get to the bottom of these things. So I wouldn't exclude that, but and that is a public process. I think that is probably the avenue that most people anticipate when they hear me call for a public inquiry.
Right. Okay. So then, if that's the case, we are, my questions the questions in it are so huge for me, because I also want to find out from your side as the attorney. Attorneys all through this, we were all going through this together. Mm-hmm. We were all going through this together. There were major concerns long before. Someone is asking a question. Why weren't many of the attorneys asking these questions prior to today?
Well, can I answer that?
Yes.
I would say in support of the work of my members during the pandemic, who were guests on your show in good numbers. And as you say, retired judges were engaged on this subject. I think the bar was present and accounted for in terms of raising the concerns about this process. But as I said, it was my view, and I will take it on my shoulders, that in the face of the public health concerns that we were faced with, that it was more important that we do what we can to make sure that people are safe and healthy within reason. And we monitored it. Not every decision that was taken we were pleased with, but I did approach it with a view that, and from my perspective, don't be confused. It was always my intention that when all was said, I was only watching. I've been pushing for these things to end for a very long time.
Yeah.
And when it ended, I'm doing what needs to be done to make sure that we get answers to those questions. So we had never abandoned our fellow citizens. It was just that in the time that we faced, it was very important that we allow all steps to be taken to get people vaccinated and secure, to take the steps to try to put us in a position to move out of a state of emergency. I can't decry the state of emergency and then throw up roadblocks arbitrarily to slow it down. So I felt like the judgment call was to allow the good judgment of the medical professionals to provide the guidance in the first instance. But now the time has come for us to really explore this and to make sure that we understand, as we have a right to, what was done in our name.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. Don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. Khalil Parker, QC, joining us. My good friend Ca Nuri, I see he has a pent-up expression, Khalil. So, of course, now that means he has one good question. And so we'll let him ask that. But when we come back, let's read some of the comments and just dig a bit deeper. I'm actually happy. I'm very happy that this is a conversation that we're having today. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio. We will be back right after this.
Offer you a value combo, but at Burger King Nassau, we offer you value and flavor. Introducing BK's $5 barbecue meal deal, where you can get your choice of barbecue chicken junior or barbecue Whopper junior with cheese plus fries and a drink for only $5, including VAT. That's right. Go to any of Burger King Nassau's 7 convenient locations and enjoy value plus barbecue in a $5 combo. The barbecue chicken junior and barbecue Whopper junior meal deals are only available at Burger King Nassau, where taste is king.
When I got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live at Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and they set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. It's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
And we're back. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Khalil Parker, QC, joining us, and my good friend and co-host, Ca Nuri. So it's so good to have you both on the show with us. Okay, so Khalil, I got a bunch of questions for you, but I know Cecil had a question for you, so I'll let him go first. Ca,
yeah, mind you, I appreciate what Mr. Parker is doing, or the exercise he is calling for, some type of atonement, some type of explanation on what had occurred. But I am uneasy with the idea of questioning government. I'm uneasy that we elected a body of persons to govern us at the best of their ability. And when there is a case of emergency, and we agreed, and he agreed that there was an emergency, to have an outside source, an outside body come and demand to question persons who I elected, right? And I believe if there is an exercise to be had, the Bar Council itself needs to commission their own accountability commission on their own budget and their own dime, not on the people's dime. I am not calling for this. So I want to know, how is it that he feels comfortable enough to suggest that the Bahamian people must follow him down this rabbit hole and spend more money that we're not prepared to spend. I'm not prepared to spend an extra dime on nothing. So if he plans to spend it and could have a collection amongst all the QCs and all the lawyers in the Bahamas, come to the Bahamas, I am fine with that, and I will support him in that effort. And however, I do not support any questioning of our government, our duly elected government. They might have made some mistakes. This is what we do in Parliament, and this is what the Progressive Liberal Party is doing now in Parliament, and questioning and putting tough questions to the government. This is how our system works. Now he is adding an additional system, and I don't feel comfortable with it. I just don't feel comfortable with it at all. How dare he?
I'll let the answer that question. I QC answer, because I got my response too. But I'll let QC
Cecil, firstly, I don't consider myself an outsider regarding any issue in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Okay, that's number one. Now, secondly, I do not know why you feel the devil needs an advocate. He is good enough to represent
that's
himself.
Right.
But I will take your question at face value. The Commissions of Inquiry Act is a part of our law. The process of public inquiry is a part of our system of government. It cannot be commissioned without the Governor General putting it into motion on the recommendation of the Prime Minister. So they would be involved in this process. And I could get my colleagues together and we could ask questions, but our inquiry would not have the powers that would be necessary to really explore and get to the bottom of these things. Now, don't get me wrong. It is open to intelligent and informed people to disagree about issues and controversy. So I don't begrudge you your opposition. But at the end of the day, what I say is that the report that would be produced by the inquiry that I propose would be value for money. Because what it would do is it would put into the hands of the Bahamian people, or the Bahamian government and future governments, the materials that really lays out what happened, how we handled it, what lessons can be learned in a more comprehensive way. Again, I mentioned earlier the cut and thrust of parliamentary debate. What you get out of that is not going to be the broad-based exposition of how these issues were contended with, and the information that the government had and acted upon, and the impact that those decisions had on human lives in the narrative form that a proper informed report would produce. I do not propose to hope that the questions that are live for me will be asked by one or other of some member of parliament, or whether or not the answer will be forthcoming. I think that the government is well placed to say that we have allowed the emergency orders to lapse. We have acknowledged that we are no longer in a state of emergency. We will now do the necessary work to ensure that an account is given for that period that we operated under these measures. And I think that for you, regardless of your reluctance to spend the money, I think that at the end of the day, it would be money well spent.
And just even adding to that, now I agree with you. I don't know, Cecil is determined, but some days the devil needs an advocate, for sure. But that someone says, listen, I agree that with Cecil, that, by George, they said, I agree with Cecil. Here is where, though, I would be leaning on the side of a public inquiry. My thing would, of course, be what is the cost of it? That is a concern of mine. What would be the cost of it? However, there's so many things that have happened in this past 2 years, going on 2 years, from March 2020 coming on to March 2022, 2 years, where things need to be analyzed from the rooter to the tutor. Where can we streamline what was done incorrectly? Not just even for me, and I gather this, I don't know what's the perfect time to do this. Now that, and Khalil is saying, well, the emergency powers is done. So now we need to review this as a public inquest on that in and of itself. Now, for me, I want to know more than just the emergency powers. I want to understand at the end of this, are we pandemic ready? Right? Do we need to have emergency powers ever again? Or should there be a different style of it? All of this is a part of growing. We talk about Malaysia, Singapore. What was the other country? Another Asian country that learned from SARS. They had their own form of inquest that
South Korea
that learned, and then they grew and were better prepared for what we have been dealing with. Will we grow, or will we have just debate another 5 years, another party, and then we're still no better off? Now, if we have, I believe, this is my thinking, that if we have something and in the line of a public inquest, it will call into account every area and industry that has had this power or powers during this time when many of us as civil citizens had none. All we could do was comply. We don't know how the money's spent and where the money going. We are sitting here waiting and hoping and praying that human beings aren't wicked whilst we try to make sure our conspiracy theories don't come true. So I think that all of this matters. I think it's very important personally. And I like the idea of it now. QCs them wake up now. I got a whole QC in the bar. They sound ready to go.
Yes.
Let's see.
Well, can I say this? I also want to say this to deal with. I know I was sort of jovial in dealing with Cecil's point, but the reality is that people lost their lives as well, and that is a very solemn weight that we carry as Bahamians. And I think that there is no price that you can put on making sure that everything that was done was necessary in order to make sure that we take steps to prevent the loss of life and the hardships that surround it. It's a very serious situation that we face, and I think that it's important that we approach the conclusion of it with that seriousness, that we get to the bottom of it, because a lot has happened.
Someone asked a question. Can you define state of emergency under the Act? And were we truly in a state of emergency from your expertise?
So this came up as an issue when the first emergency orders lapsed and they rushed and declared a second state of emergency. And there was a view that at that point in time, it was very difficult to say that we were dealing with something that was unknown at that particular time. I have been of the view that we could have transitioned to a regime similar to the regime that we are under right now quite a while ago. And so I think that an emergency, I don't think anybody just debates the question of whether or not COVID-19 presented the country with an emergency, but the question is very important. I do like that the viewer asked that question. And that is one of the things that is very important as well. You have to make sure that people are not casually declaring emergencies, and that we are not casually brought into, even though it doesn't arise, in my opinion, with the onset of COVID-19. I think that is an undisputable, a global pandemic, in the circumstances, in the way it impacted us, is something that I don't think there would be too much controversy regarding. And when you consider the nature of our economy, the nature of our geography, we are inherently susceptible to what is going on and what is circulating in the countries around the world. So it is important that we question whether or not we are ready for Mach 2 pandemic. And so there are myriad reasons why an inquiry would produce dividends to meet Cecil's cost-benefit criterion.
Yeah. Cecil, you have something else you want to add? I know you sound like that one giant question.
I appreciate that. And I think the concern is not whether things were not done properly, but whether the Bar Association allowed the Constitution to be suspended without challenging it. The issue here was a constitutional issue, and we found that the legal fraternity neglected in protecting us. So they should bear the responsibility and bear the cost for what is happening now. And that did not happen. No one sued the government. No one challenged the government in court that they are not constitutionally, that they did not went against the Constitution. It seems as if our Constitution had no value or no worth, and the protectors, the guardians of our Constitution, did nothing. They watched. Now they come in after the event and feigning ignorance, saying, well, perhaps we need to do an inquiry, when they did not do their job. We need to have an inquiry in the Bar Council and whether they were competent or not in doing their job. I'm just throwing that in, by the way.
Yeah. Someone says, get him, Cecil. Oh, respond to that one.
That is, I would say to your co-host, congratulations, by the way, that he needs to check the tape. He needs to watch your records.
He does need to watch the records.
Yeah, he needs to, because we were on the show. Litigation was started. And actions, I think that there was also a judicial review. And when people were arrested, lawyers were deployed to go and represent people in these things. That we were busy. And one of the things that, we were on lockdown as well, I struggled feverishly to get the legal profession declared an essential service so that we could be out in the streets helping people, because you can't have lawyers locked down and still be locking up people. It was madness. So at the end of the day, because lawyers braved the streets to make sure that people were represented, we were out there. I take Cecil's point, but as I said in the intro, there was a broad-based view. And like I said, I take it on my own shoulders, that the public health considerations took front seat. It did take front seat. And at the end of the day, it was always anticipated that for many reasons, the broader issues would be fully explored as we moved on. And that is why I'm here, Cecil. It's not that we feigned ignorance. It's that we were waiting until we get to this point to make sure that people understand that we did not forget, that our insistence that there be an account stands. So that's why I stand at the first opportunity to say there must be an accounting for that experience. So I take your point, but it was a calculation, and as again we could disagree as to whether the right balance was struck, but we are now in this position, and it is very important that those questions be answered and that those issues be explored fully and ventilated. I think that there is so many reasons why.
Do you have a timeline you're hoping, if you're just tuning in, Khalil Parker QC, joining as president of the Bahamas Bar Association, and calling for an independent public inquiry on the uses of the emergency powers, in this time of COVID. What do you see as a timeline? What are you hoping as a response?
Well, I made the call yesterday. I'm pleased that you saw fit to invite me on your show today. I'm pleased that the press carried the story today. I am open. I hope to meeting with the government on to hear my thoughts on it. I will be engaging with them to see what their thoughts are on it. I can't dictate the timeline. I do know that it will take some time. We do have to walk and chew gum. As I say, the virus is not in retreat. We are still dealing with a public health crisis. I understand that. So we will have to run in tandem, but that is before. We'll explore the timeline when we see if they're going to take my call up. So I think that I'm open to a discussion in that regard.
Do you stand alone with this, Khalil? How many attorneys stand with you? We're talking not just of the Bar Association. Who's with you?
I'm the president of the Bahamas Bar Association, so we are some 1,300 on strong.
And they signed in the petition and they're ready to go. They're ready for this to happen.
Rip roaring.
Khalil Parker, thank you so much. I appreciate the time, my friend, and it was on short notice, and so I really appreciate you more. We have the promotion of Cecil to co-host is a new thing, but definitely he brings a level of flavor.
Make him study his back tapes.
I realize he hasn't watched the tapes. He hasn't watched the tapes.
Well, come for me.
But that's fine. You're a good attorney.
Mr. Parker sign off.
I'll leave you to it. You get the last word, obviously. Thank you, Nahaja.
Thank you, Khalil. I appreciate you, my friend.
Welcome.
All right. You're listening to the Hit Back CA. Folks are saying, boy, you on point today. Yes, that's people just
always on point though, but I prefer to be in the background, so guest hosts, But mind you, I appreciate what Mr. Parker is doing. I'm not saying that I do not appreciate and understand what it is. I'm just saying that the issue seems to be more constitutional, and that they need to make more effort in questioning whether the Constitution was breached or did the government gone too far, which is completely separate from having a public inquiry on what the procedures are, what followed. So, and that's where my concern is.
Well, you know what? And
money.
Yeah, and listen, and we know that the Dame was very strong on this from the beginning. Dame Joan Sawyer called it a constitutional issue from the beginning. But we know that there was a back and forth with Dame Anita Allen and Dame Joan Sawyer, and really, we were sitting there as laymen, as the electorate, as the citizenry, saying, okay, well, who's right? And I do agree that if more of our attorneys in mass, but they were individually saying, hey, we're not pleased with this. This is an issue with the Constitution for them. We know for sure Wayne Monroe was one. I know for sure that Khalil had been on the show and he shared that concern as well. But I get your point. There should have been more of a pushback. I feel you on that. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, C.A. Nehru will be joining us, and Director Chris Curry from the AMC. Now he's director. Is he director? What do we call him now? I don't know. We'll be back right after this.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Good afternoon. I'm Tashina Robinson, and here's a look at some of the stories we're working on at this hour. The country might be in a serious place with over $10 billion in debt, but that's not stopping over 100 locals from traveling to Dubai for the World Expo, largely at the expense of taxpayers. According to Director of Communications in the Office of the Prime Minister, Trey Ramming, that number is a reduced figure. The entourage is said to include government officials, artisans, and a gospel choir. Still no word yet on how much the trip will cost. Ramming says the United Arab Emirates will absorb some expenses. Today, Central Bank Governor John Rowles says the economy will be in a recovery mode for 2022 and beyond. He says the Bahamas is grappling to return to where it was pre-pandemic. Meantime, Royal Bahamas Defense Force Commodore Raymond King advising the family of a Marine fatally shot by police 3 days ago against pushing for the release of body cam footage of the incident. After viewing the video, the RBDF head says the moments leading up to the leading seaman Rodney Adderley's death is not something the family would want in the public domain. In a joint statement, the Ministry of National Security, Royal Bahamas Police Force, and the Defense Force have said the footage is consistent with officers' account that the deceased was the aggressor. And the Defense Force not immune to the country's explosion in Omicron cases. The RBDF saw a spike in cases towards the end of last year and the beginning of this month. Commodore Raymond King says 30% of cases were linked to family gatherings, another 45% due to workplace transmission, and 25% caused by travel. And that's what's topping the news at this hour. I'm Tashina Robinson. Stay tuned. AP News is up next.
Biden and the Senate. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. President Biden says he's not sure his elections and voting rights legislation can pass Congress this year. Biden, talking with reporters after Key, fellow Democrat Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona announced her refusal to go along with changing Senate rules to bypass a Republican filibuster. After meeting with Senate Democrats, Biden pointed out that not only have GOP-controlled legislatures imposed limits on voting, they are revamping state and local election offices to make it easier to bypass vote totals.
It's about election subversion, not just whether or not people get to vote.
Republicans are nearly unanimous in opposing the legislation. Student loan collecting company Navient agrees to cancel $1.7 billion in student loan debt owed by more than 66,000 borrowers and pay another $140 million in penalties for abusive lending practices. The settlement is with attorneys general of 39 states. I'm Tim McGuire.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. My good friend, co-host, C.A. Nuri, looking all dapper. Don't forget you can watch us online, live on Facebook and on YouTube. And we are here every day on the number one radio talk station, Guardian 96.9 FM, every weekday. Every day. Y'all know I like my Saturdays and Sundays. 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday right here on this spot. Cecil, all right, my boy. So we're going to be welcoming now our good friend, our mutual friend. He's been on the show many times. Yeah, many times. Now he has a new gig, right? So now I don't know if you call him director, doctor, direct. What do we say? What is it you say?
The title and doctors are always close to the name. So
they got to be director,
like
doctor.
Prime Minister, doctor.
Is it like the most directorial doctor? You know, because we can run out. We should run out.
So it's director of doctors.
That one I didn't see coming.
No, just made
I like
that up.
it. I like it. All right. Well, we want to introduce today on the show special guest, the one and only director, Dr. Chris Curry, director of AMC.
I like that. And thank you for such a wonderful welcome from CA and my good friend Nahaja. I was saying I don't mind being a doctor director as long as I'm not a dictator director.
Yeah, that matters. It's good to see you, buddy. How you been?
I've been very busy, but it's a blessing to have a job and to be able to do something that I think is really important.
Well, you know what? First of all, congratulations. I couldn't think of a better person to be leading and heading something so important as the AMMC. Reason being is probably we'll know more about the AMMC and see some of these antiquities, museums, monuments come to life in a way that we haven't seen before. But the reason why we wanted you on, Chris, is just for that reason. We've had a lot of talk about orange economy. I know we've had discussions of our monuments going into sort of a PPP kind of thing, right? I'm wondering what's the state of that. And I had I didn't like the idea. I didn't like it, but maybe that would work. Maybe it was a workable idea. And I don't know. So I'm glad that you're here with us. I know that you have some other persons who work with you, your team, who've been there and continue to carry the mantle of the AMMC. And so we'll bring them on in a few. But I want to get from you, first of all, tell us about this new gig. What does it mean to you now? You're now the director of the Antiquities Museum Monuments Corporation. What is that?
Yeah. I think sometimes we might be the best kept secret in the Bahamas for different reasons. But I think the easiest way to think about what we do, the Antiquities Monuments Museum Corporation, is the protector of our patrimony. That is to say, we're supposed to safeguard our heritage. We're supposed to make sure, for example, we don't have people coming in and thieving our artifacts. I'm thinking of Wakanda forever. That famous scene in the London Museum. The fact of the matter is there are actually places around the world that have our artifacts that we need returned to us. People come into our country all the time, treasure hunters and others who are trying to just, take what we have out of our country without any authorization. So we are kind of like the guardians of
the galaxy,
the guardians of our antiquities, of our artifacts, of our ruins, of our forts, our museums, any heritage site we're kind of protecting and we're trying to conserve. And in some instances, we're also trying to restore, buildings that some people might think are garbage and are derelict and just need to be like bulldozed down, where they're saying, no, this building has historic value. Let's actually restore it and make it into a heritage site and put a plaque up and recognize its significance. So we're kind of like the protectors of our patrimony, to keep it simple.
And I'm glad that you said that, because there's a lot of red meat in there for me when I get excited hearing you say stuff like that, right? And the protecting of our monuments, of these important spaces and places. See, so I don't know if you remember, some years ago, I don't know, I can't remember what radio station I was on then. And we were driving past where the Columbus statue used to be, because it ain't there no more. And across the street from that, right next to Christ Church Cathedral, I think across from is this old building where the roof is caving in, right? And I remember saying, Jesus, man, this is right downtown. We have next to Government House in Columbus across the street, and most historical church across the other side of the street, and then this terrible eyesore. Why is it not being restored? Who owns this? They need to do something with this space, only to find out it was under the auspices, the protection of the AMMC. And I'm curious, Chris, as you've been in there now, you tell me, Chris.
I've been in office since November 29th.
Don't watch that. Pressure reach. So Is there a budget? What is the budget of the AMMC, and how do we ensure that these spaces are taken care of?
Well, we're a government agency, so we get I would say probably about 96% of what is in our budget, so to speak, is basically a subvention from the government, and that mostly pays our payroll. And this is the challenge. COVID-19 shut down all of our forts, all of our museums, all of the revenue generating heritage sites that we could use to help assist the defray of the cost of the subvention have been shut down. So my job when I arrived here immediately was to try to work towards opening those sites. And we put in an application to the Ministry of Health. And then all of a sudden, we were working assiduously to get all of our ducks lined up and to benchmark all the things that the health persons wanted us to have in place. And then guess what happened? A fourth wave. Yeah. So we have had conversations with the Ministry of Health, and they've been very helpful. But basically, they relayed to us after Christmas that our application is on pause, as I'm sure many places are, because of this fourth wave. But we're really looking forward to, and we're very hopeful that in the very near future, our forts and museums will be open so that we could start to generate revenue and make some money for the country. And it's not just about making money, though. It's about raising an awareness about our heritage sites. It's about attracting Bahamians and our international visitors to our sites so they can learn about our rich and beautiful history. So that's really what we're all about. We're working towards some really, really, really cool ideas, some programs that we're going to be bringing on board over the next few months. I'd love to talk about some of them, and I'm sure my colleagues at AMMC would also like to talk about some ideas that we have in the pipeline. The idea is to really bring history to life through immersive tours and reenactments and other events that make people feel like they're in the 18th century or they're in the 19th century. You know what I mean? So we're all about that and more.
Okay, ICCA has a question for you.
Thank you very much, Nahaja. I have a series of questions, actually.
I love
a series of questions.
Yes, I love history, and I appreciate the sites that the Bahamas have to offer. And I believe that per square mile that the Nassau or New Providence has more historic places than any other country. But I'd like to start off with this, right? Where is the AMMC located? Is it in the Collins building on Shirley Street?
Okay. The Collins building we have a building A, B, C, D, E, and F, like the alphabet, right? Collins House is in front of the main building that we occupy. So that's considered building A. And we were always planning to have that building turned into the National Museum of the Bahamas. But right now, it's, as you probably know, it's a bit of a derelict building. And it's going to cost a bit of money, a lot of money, actually, to turn it into a museum. But that has always been the plan. And I've looked at master plans since I've been in office and ideas for turning it into the museum. And that is still absolutely out in the open to happen. But anyways, to get to your point, we're located behind that building, behind Collins House. And you can get to us from Collins Avenue.
And you mentioned money. How much money would it cost to renovate that building A?
Okay.
Because, that is what is stopping us from getting all of these artifacts that is around the world, right? Because we need a building to host it. And if there's no building in the future, that means we'll never get any of these artifacts anytime soon. Is there a timeline? Is there a timeline for that building to be renovated? And how much currently do you estimate that the building needs to be renovated?
Okay, so I looked at a plan for restoration of that building back in 2008. I have a whole bunch of files that I've had to review in my new position, and I think the cost at that time was put at about $8 million. That was 2008. We're now in 2022, so you could extrapolate that. Obviously, it's going to be a lot more than that. I can't put a figure on it because we haven't done a recent assessment, structural engineers and others, architects who come and do that kind of work. There's definitely been some further degradation of the building since 2008. So again, I imagine that cost would go up. But to the second point, is there a timeline? I don't have a timeline yet, but I am going to be putting a proposal to the government very soon. I have a proposal in the works for the water tower as well. I don't know if that was one of your other questions.
I'm coming there to the water tower too. So
yeah,
I want to say I appreciate that you're new to the position. Yeah. It's not that I'm challenging you. It's just that I feel that the works so far is lackluster, right?
Yeah.
In terms that you call it 18 years has passed, and we have not reached the finance to fix the building. There's been further degradation since for 18 years now. We're not any closer to the building being completed, nor even financing it at all. So I have that in the back of my mind and say, well, look like this is not happening. So I'm going to bypass that and want a question about the PPP. The last administration, I know you mentioned that you manage all these monuments and historical sites, but if I'm not correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't we now have a public partnership agreement with an entity who will now manage these buildings, and they will now be receiving the finance and will not necessarily be antiquities that you suggested that you could be making money from this?
That agreement was never finalized, but I will tell you that we at AMMC, and I'm using the royal we here, we are all in favor of private-public partnerships. So far as the private partnership is one where we have private enterprises who are willing to finance and assist us with raising the funds to, for example, restore the Collins House or to restore the water tower. Yes, we embrace the private financing, but the partnership has to be one, in my opinion, where the AMMC is still strategically the technicians behind managing the assets, the heritage assets, okay? Because that's what we have. You know, I've had the opportunity to meet all 80 staff that work at AMMC, and the thing that strikes me as so important is how many of our talented and gifted and qualified persons work at AMMC. We have people who have master's degree in museum studies, people who have master's degree in curating. We have people who have master's degrees and doctorate degrees in archaeology, like Dr. Grace Turner, for example. So we have all these amazing people that work here. So my opinion is the PPP has to work where you get the financing from the private sector, and then the public side is us managing, because of our technical expertise, the sites. And I embrace any PPP that looks like that. And I'm leaving it open-ended because we're definitely looking for some partners. I've already reached out to a number of strategic partners since I've been in office, written letters. I've had some phone calls, and I'm actually working towards forging some relationships that I'd love to make public in the near future.
Nahaja, before I move on to ask my next question, I can't hear you. Before I move on to ask my next question,
wait, hold on.
Talk about the PPP, because I know you mentioned it also.
I got to take a quick break. When we come back, already. When we come back, though, I like this topic of the PPP, and we have Dion Sims, also project coordinator, joining us on the other side of the break, because I think also he can help answer some of these questions.
Yeah, he's a great guy to talk to. Trust me.
Yeah. But I like this. I like the question of the PPP now, because I'm intrigued. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, CA, now hosting for the second hour. We'll be back right after this.
When I got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and they set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. That's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
Anyone can offer you a value combo, but at Burger King Nassau, we offer you value and flavor. Introducing BK's $5 barbecue barbecue meal deal where you can get your choice of barbecue chicken junior or barbecue Whopper junior with cheese plus fries and a drink for only $5 including VAT. That's right. Go to any of Burger King Nassau's 7 convenient locations and enjoy value plus barbecue in a $5 combo. The barbecue chicken junior and barbecue Whopper junior meal deals are only available at Burger King Nassau, where taste is king.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio. C.A. Nuri, co-host today on the show. My special guest, Dr. Chris Curry, newly minted director of the AMMC, and to which he is the guest of the show today. And of course, his project and project coordinator, Dion Sims, joining us on the show. Welcome, Mr. Sims. Welcome, Dr. Curry, and of course, my good friend CA. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. All right. So, Cecil, now that we got everybody here, ask that question.
Yeah, but thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Welcome again, Dion. It's always good to see you. And it seems like I know all the historians of the Bahamas, but that's because I like history and I tend to go to all the tours.
Well, good to see you too, bro.
Dion once or twice on a number of tours. Right, but I wanted to continue in the same vein. Dr. Curry hinted that the PPP that was instituted has not been finalized, and perhaps I don't want to get into politics of it. Perhaps there'll be a different version of the PPP moving forward. Right, I just want to appreciate that's what you're suggesting.
Perhaps. Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting, and again, we're not shying away from the idea that PPPs can actually work in the Bahamas. I've seen it firsthand. In another vein, I'm working on a documentary film on regattas in the Bahamas, and we're able to secure some funding from persons who are involved in the sailing business. And with the right technical support, you get an amazing product. And we're saying the same thing for antiquities. We're looking for strategic partners. We envision partners in the whole Bennett's Hill area, Fort Fincastle, the Water Tower, and the 66 Steps. That's a 3-in-1 heritage site. And we have strategic partners right nearby who could assist us in making that into a fully pedestrian area. With the support of the Straw Vendors Association, which we already have in principle, and really making that a world-class heritage site. That's a big plan.
And asking Dion also about any particular projects or ideas that either of you have in terms of making the AMMC more popular. Few people know what it is. We know what a National Museum is. I mean, I believe the National Museum is the official name of the AMMC. I'm not sure of that. You can confirm that. And we're working towards having a National Museum where everything will be housed there and be managed away from that. But in terms of the water tower itself, what is the plan for the water tower? Why is it not open? And do we have a timeline for it being open anytime soon?
Well, we don't have a timeline yet because we got to get our partners in place first. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. But I'd love for Dion to talk about some of those projects. We had a meeting on Tuesday, and he had at least 2 or 3 really good ideas. I'd love for him to share a little bit about the relay, or to talk about some of the festivals that we were thinking about doing.
Hopefully, he's not frozen. And
yeah.
You can speak on
Can
that.
you hear us, Dion? Oh, yeah, he's frozen in time. That's that Omicron.
But there have been a number of conversations about ideas of what can happen on Fort Finn Castle, right? Because the entire community is a historical venue in terms of 66 Steps, in terms of the fort itself, in terms of the community, in terms of the water tower, right? And in terms of even encompassing festivals, right? But I would like to know, what is your plan as a director to bringing that into fruition? And what type of plans do you think that we can embrace for that particular community?
Right. So the plan is, and again, I've met with the straw vendors authority. We want to make it pedestrian only. That means that we will have to build a parking lot on the north side of the fort. We actually own the land that actually slopes all the way down to Sands Road. Sands Road, of course, takes you out to East Street from the hospital. And we're looking at a strategic partner who will help to defray the cost of building the parking lot. And the parking lot would allow us to have taxi drivers and tour buses park there. And then we would have a central entrance point, like a big arch or whatever we may think of putting up there to enter the park. And then you would walk up the slope, and there will be disability ramp for our disabled persons. And then the entire park area, including the water tower, which will be restored with a new elevator, and the fort with reenactments and drilling will be on display, and a refurbished gift shop as well will all be up on top of the hill. And so what happens now that I've observed is there's a lot of traffic on top of the hill. It's almost like a disaster waiting to happen, to be honest, with so much pedestrian traffic, and then you have your straw vendors, and then you have your taxi drivers and tour vehicles. And so we want to kind of make the space greener and the space a little safer, not a little, a lot safer, by making it pedestrian only. And then, of course, we want to do some serious work, landscaping around it, fencing it in, and again, doing all of this within a budget that is constrained, certainly, but allows for us to work with a strategic partner. I don't want to reveal who we have in mind because I haven't really, secured the deal, but I've already had preliminary discussions with some persons. And I've also, started to talk about this with Ministry of Works as well, because they are important players in this project as well. So, we're starting the ball rolling at this stage, but that's my vision for the Fort Fincastle area.
So there seems to be a master plan. Is there a master plan that the public can actually look at and say, okay, I see where you're going, I see your vision, and then perhaps have some costs next to it. So perhaps I too can join in and donate $125 toward whatever type of plan that you have right there. Because I'm interested.
We have plans. Actually, while some people were enjoying their Christmas break, I was in my office reading the Save the Water Tower campaign, which went all the way back to 2010. And we've had a series of plans. We've had structural engineers, architects, electrical engineers, you name it. We've had a lot of plans that have been put on the table. And I recently have in my possession now another proposal that came to my desk yesterday. So I'm telling you that if you knew how many plans have been out there to restore and revitalize that area, it's just incredible. The important thing is to be prudent and discerning when it comes to this, and to make the best plan and the most cost-effective measure in place. You have to be prudent in these decision making, and you also have to do what is best for the Bahamian public and our visitors that come to the site. So I have a plan in mind. We have architectural drawings, trust me. We have surveys and structural engineers who've already done a lot of the legwork from up to 10 years ago.
And you mentioned money several times, and in fact, partnering with investors, PPP partnerships, right? And it seems that money is a problem because there's a delay with the National Museum on Collins Avenue. There's a delay in terms of fixing the water tower. There's a delay in enacting a number of the plans that was already put forward. So clearly, money is an issue. And I want to know if there's any talks with this administration in terms of investing government money along with partnering with these potential partners in the future, because it seems as if there's going to be another long delay in terms of accomplishing any of these ideas that you have and what you're putting forward right now.
Well, I sensed I don't want to call it pessimism, maybe cynicism. But you know, and I understand why. Yeah, because you know, you've seen these structures. For example, the water tower has not been working since 2002, and I also sense the same sort of, you know, cynicism, because you know, I'm looking through files, Save the Water Tower from 2010. That's like 12 years ago. But what I do know is that this current government supports the Orange Economy Initiative. That's obviously part of their New Day platform. Everyone has read that. I know that they do intend to put money where their mouth is. But you know, we have to be strategic. We have to find the right fit for the right model. And that is the process that we're undertaking. And that is something that I'm personally committed to. I have a vision for the water tower. I have an idea for Collins House as well. But you know, those things require work, and they require people to meet together to determine the best way forward. And so, you know, trust me when I say it, I wouldn't come on the show and just talk about this stuff if I wasn't serious about it. And those are two heritage sites that are dear to me, and I do definitely see the value. I think the water tower is the most trafficked area. The Fort Fincastle water tower is the most trafficked heritage site in the Bahamas. I was up there when I did a site visit a few weeks ago, and would you believe that in the span of about 20 minutes, I would have seen about 150 tourists. You know, and this is during the height of a pandemic. Trust me, there is a lot of money to be made up there if we do things right. I met today with a merchandising committee, and we're looking at stocking our gift shop with amazing products that are again attract people to that site. We want to bring in, you know, miniature replicas of the water tower and the fort. We want to have T-shirts and shot glasses with, you know, the iconic fort on it. And I see that Dion is back. I'd love to hear his ideas. You know, we brought him on the show. I don't want to do all the talking, so I'd love Dion to talk about some of those ideas that we talked about on Tuesday.
Go ahead, Dion. Welcome to the show.
Yeah,
again.
but sorry again for the technical difficulties. I don't know. Maybe the server doesn't like me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're looking at getting the event side. The thing about it is that nothing works without the people. You know, I'm a big fan of some reality TV, and one of my favorite shows is Bar Rescue. And I bring that up because whenever John Taft was redesigning a bar, he always cues in the owners on the type of people that live in the area. And he says, well, look, you know what? These are the people that are going to be your main customers. And so for us, when I go someplace and I say I work for the AMMC and people don't know what that is, that's disturbing for me, especially since I've been there for 15 years, right? And so the whole idea is to get a slew of events going on. Not the type of events where you're looking at dance parties and stuff like that, but more cultural based events that line up with particular dates in our history that you should know, and things that get people out to the site, get people around the site and doing things around the site. Because part of the reasons why the sites are deteriorating is nobody's coming around them.
That's a great point.
I mean,
great point.
You know, when you think about it like this, if you've ever left your home to go on a vacation for 2 weeks, and let's say you turned off your fridge and left it closed, that fridge is awful when you get back, right? I mean, it's horrible. That's the same thing what happens with the sites, especially under this pandemic, where these sites have had to been closed and everything like that. They're really starting to feel the effect because nobody's coming around. Nobody's giving them any love. In fact, the site where I'm at is probably the least visited site under our care, which is Balcony House. You know,
and I was going to go on and ask that question because the last time I saw you were at Balcony House, and I would like to know.
That's right.
How would you draw people to visit? Because I know I went there because I was researching Stephen Dillett, right? And knowing that was his home at once upon a time. Yeah. And in fact, you gave me a tour, and I was very enthralled about the history of it. But how do you get Bahamians to come to a place where it doesn't have any parking?
Yep.
Right? and to venture upstairs and be interested in seeing this balcony house.
Yeah. The parking is a big one.
Well, parking is indeed a big one. But what I noticed about Bahamians is that if we want to go somewhere, we're going. Right? Parking is a non-issue. We're going. You know, when I was a kid and we wanted to go downtown and there was no parking downtown, my mother would park all the way by Victoria Avenue to go west of East Street. So
but they wasn't stealing
parking
bumpers
is indeed
as
an
much
issue.
as they stealing bumpers now, Dion. And bumpers ain't gonna make it. Right?
Yes, you're correct. You're correct. Right? But I find the major problem is that people just don't know where the site is. That's one of the major problems. And if you don't believe that, you know, we once had a visitor trip down the stairs at Fort Fincastle, and we called the ambulance. Right now, you know where the hospital is in relation to Fort Fincastle, and a half hour goes by, no ambulance. So we call back, and they say they don't know where Fort Fincastle is.
That'd be right.
And I was like, "You're serious right now? We right up the hill. You could see us if you walk outside. You know." Wow. And this is what we're dealing with, and it's primarily because we have this culture where, you know, once we know where something is, we don't really need to worry about anybody else knowing. So this is why you have one-way streets that don't have a sign that say one-way street. You know, this is why it took many years for us to put up those signs that say this way to Bay Street, this way to Atlantis, this way to UB. I mean, if you want an even recent incident, think about when they did the first IAAF meteor, and immediately they had a problem with people couldn't find the sports center. And so they had to go and put up those signs, those black and white signs, to show people which way to the sports center, right? And we have that issue with our historic sites, is that people, number one, don't know where they are, and I've seen it too many times. And then you look at somebody like John Watlands. So in comes John Watlands, right? They go to Buena Vista. Most people don't know where Buena Vista is. John Watlands nipped that in the bud right away. They
agreed.
Put every corner that leads John Watlands Park bench or a sign or something saying John Watlands this way. I just passed through that corner today. They have another sign up with a silhouette of a man walking in the direction of John Watlands to let you know where it is. Right? That is the type of dedication we need for our sites. And Dr. Curry is very on board with getting the people in and listening to what the issues are, and getting these things sorted out, because that is the first thing. The first thing is that we have to get our own coming to the sites. And, you know, if I dare say, we have people on the sites all the time. Doc, free internet.
And I wanted to ask, what is the AMMC's relationship with Greycliff? I see Greycliff has renovated that entire West Street area, and they've used a number of historical buildings. I'm not sure if they purchased it or they rented it from the AMMC, but they're doing an awesome job with that. I would like to know if you're working with them. Is there any agreement in terms of PPPs with them?
That's a great question. We don't have one with them yet, but since you mentioned it, and I drove through West Hill Street just yesterday, and I saw the umbrellas hung across the road. I saw the museum on the other side of the street, the free chocolates being advertised. It's a great way to get people in the chocolate factory. And I did say to myself, we need to forge a relationship with them. I believe that we could create a historic district across the Nassau town. And you said it earlier, CA, that we have per square mile or whatever more heritage sites than probably most cities in the hemisphere. But the problem is signage, and Dion was speaking about that as well. That really, you know, Balcony House is where he is like basically the chief manager, curator, administrator. but it gets so little traffic because it's on Market Street across from the central bank. We need signage to direct people to that museum from Bay Street.
Yeah.
We may have signage at some of our forts, but we don't have signage leading up to the fort. You know, and you know, he told the joke about the ambulance in Fort Fincastle. Again, we don't have enough signage directing people to Fincastle and around Fincastle. So we need a national signage campaign, and I really do mean national, including the Family Islands, that really highlight the beautiful heritage that our country has that a lot of people don't even know. And I think that's really one of our that's a big task, but with the right partners, whether it be Great Cliff or whether it be the Ministry of Tourism or some other agency, we have got to get it done. We have got to get signage around our country.
You know, and before I ask that question, I want to ask that there is this question of what is the cost? Have we put together a budget for that sort of costing, so that we can then say this is how much it will cost us to solve this problem? Have you guys done that yet?
Well, I know that, you know, and again, sometimes we work in silos. I know the Ministry of Tourism is working on a similar campaign, so we have to connect with them and talk about the costing. But I would imagine from figures that I've seen before, it may cost us upwards of $2 million for signage, because you don't want to have cheap, cheesy signage, right? That the next storm that we have, whether it be a hailstorm or a winter storm or a hurricane, you want that signage to be able to withstand weather, regular weather. And you want signage that stands out, and you want signage that is standardized, that you don't want to have a different sign for every street, right? We want everything in the same colors, the same like format, and all of that.
A theme,
Yes.
even if it's like what Dion said with John Watlin's a man walking down, a silhouette of a man walking down the street. That's quite creative. And it would make sense too. Have we done any math? And I guess this is what you will be doing, because then my next question is, if we're spending $2 million on signage, what are we expecting on return of investment in terms of foot traffic? That's the sort of things that then I ask. And then is there a campaign after signage that draws us to these spaces? Because now, you know, if you build it, they will come. Well, we know that isn't happening because you got the spaces and people ain't coming. Now you tell them where it is. Is that sufficient of a motivating factor? And so that's where my curiosity then lies into what is the strategic plan then to get more foot traffic in there to these spaces? Have you guys started to do that? Have you seen anything, Chris, as the new CEO? And Dion can tell us, as someone who's been there for how many decades, have you guys done those sort of planning before, that sort of budgeting and stuff before? And what has happened to them? I'll let Dion answer that one. Dion is the pro.
Well, I'll tell you. Well, I'm not in senior management, so I couldn't really speak to all of the details with regards to that. But from what I know, because when I came out of the private sector, and one of the things what we did in the private sector was the marketing was key, right? We used to spend, back in the day, it was like $16,000 a year to get in the port book for the cruise lines. When the cruise ships are coming into port, you know, to have an ad in that book. And then another $16,000 to get into all the maps and everything like that on base with the tourists are getting. So marketing is a very costly venture. And then I brought that up and I was like, look, you know, we need to do some marketing. And they was like, well, what I was told, and I don't know how true it is that being a government agency, we were not allowed to compete against other entities that were like us. So we weren't allowed to compete against historic sites and museums and whatnot in terms of marketing because we were a government agency. And so this is why I was always about the signage, because at least we could mount signs, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about marketing is that marketing is a very, you know, when you think about guerrilla marketing, right? Guerrilla marketing has basically changed the game in terms of what you can do and what you can accomplish. And for us, we could have marketed in that stack and still managed to stay within the parameters of what it is with the government
Hold that thought, Dion, because your volume is really low. I don't know why your volume is so low.
My phone is up to the max. So,
There
hold
you go.
on.
No,
I
that's
know.
it. That's it.
All right. I think it's this mic.
You're back.
Oh, you can
Don't
hear me
worry.
now?
That's it. Oh yeah. Say what you got to say now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that, for us, I think that, when you think about the phenomenon that is guerrilla marketing, where you could just put something out there for the sheer shock value and use whatever is available. There's so many things that we can do. I'll give you an example. Like one of the things that they do in guerrilla marketing, right, is that they'll take a stencil. They'll get a stencil of what it is that they want to say. They'll put that stencil on the ground, get a pressure washer, pressure wash that piece of the sidewalk, and when they pull up that stencil, that image is on the ground for everybody to see.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, after people walk up and down on it, it's gone.
Yep.
So it's simple things like that you can do, right? And it's that type of stuff that is the type of draw that you want to bring to people, because when they see this thing on the ground, let's say they saw something, say Fort Charlotte this way, free Wi-Fi and cold drinks. See, our thing is that what happened is that the AMMC has a lot of technocrats, right? We have a lot of people that know the business of history in and out. I mean, if you sat down in a room with these people and you come out not knowing anything about the Bahamas, that means that you either died or you were struck deaf, because you're going to get filled with knowledge. It's that simple. Where I feel where we fell down was that we didn't have enough people with business acumen on the team to look at the business side of things, right? And then what you had was that whenever an idea came up, you had all these technical people who were like, oh yeah, we could do that. And they're thinking on the scope of like maybe some civic organization where they were in, and they pulled off a bake sale. It's not the same thing.
I agree. I like this.
It's not the same thing. It's a lot more complex than that, and everything is all about strategy, right? And so when you talk about how we're going to get the people there, it's all sorts of tricks that you can use in terms of marketing. I mean, there's something new coming out every day.
Effective?
That are cost effective, yeah, they're cost effective. And the thing about it is that the government has so many things in their toolbox that you could use. Like the government could declare a National T-shirt Day. I mean, they do it for everybody else. They could do it for us. They could do a National T-shirt Day, save the water tower, or anything. And then when you go to every bank, they'll be a thing for the water tower. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Right? Then there's the whole community aspect about getting the communities in. Once you have the communities come in, I mean, how many times have you been someplace and you see somebody, you say, boy, you come far, eh? You know why they come far? Because somebody in that community worked with them and told them about it. You see? Because that person in the community is going to wherever it is. And we've had events, I will tell you now, we've had events where we had an all right turnout, but if you had to count the people from the community, let's say that you might give up trying to find people to count.
Yeah. Dion Sims joining us from the AMMC, along with Chris Curry, new director, CA Nuri, joining us as well. We're talking about the plans, the vision, the goals. We have a new director. We also know our director is a historian, is a university professor, has a passion for this sort of stuff for a long time. And so for me, Chris, and CA, of course, that's why I think we're both excited. And I couldn't have done the show without CA joining it, because he is the true historian of the two of us. I just show up and be present. I am moved with a sense of optimism, right, Chris? I always mention how, like, when I went to Atlanta, that space, just the few spaces I went, which were intentional, to go and visit Martin Luther King's, childhood home, go to the MLK Museum, visit the Museum of Civil Rights and History, to sit in Ebenezer Baptist Church. Did Chris fall down the stairs? Anybody
He's
know what
still
happened,
there.
Chris?
He's still there.
For me, what I was hoping, look at Deon's like, did he fall on his face? No, he just
He's still
walked.
there. He's working on the internet.
He's working on some kinks. You should see Deon Sim's face. Deon's like, did we lose
That
him?
shocked look. But Nahaja,
go ahead.
I want to when Dr. Curry and of course Deon comes back, I want to know about the family island. What historical aspects to the family island that the AMMC is doing, and also what are they doing to protect these monuments? A number of them are at risk, in terms of being falling into derelict, and a number of them needs to be cleaned around in terms of surrounding. But so it's the family island I'm concerned about, and I want to have some information on what is the AMMC doing to protect monuments and historical buildings.
Yeah, and Deon, I don't know if you're able to answer that with us, but Chris isn't here right now, so we'll get.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that one is above my pay grade, so yeah, I can.
Yeah.
But I could tell you in terms of the cleaning that we have a crew of groundsmen. Those dudes, they are on point. They're out every morning, like from 5 a.m. Going around to all the sites, cleaning up the garbage, mowing the lawn, trimming the trees. In the forts in particular, removing the ingrown trees out of the structure. So yeah, they're doing the work. So I as far as the cleaning up is concerned, I know for a fact that they're doing the work.
Listen, Deon, thank you so much. I don't know where Chris went, but we're running out of time. Deon Sims, I appreciate you so much. Keep up the great work. And I have to visit Balcony House because I haven't,
Yeah,
it's nice, Nahaja. It's worth the trip.
I have not been. I haven't brought my girls there.
The
What are
thing
the
about it
hours?
is, well, when we're open, the hours are usually between 9:30 and 4:30. But we're open to the public.
And are you guys? You're not open now. Are you open now?
No, we're not open now.
And then no timeline on when you will resume.
Well, like Dr. Curry said, that got pushed back because I'd submitted an application and we were looking at this coming Monday, but not anymore apparently.
Now you guys are going to open when the school's open. That's we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Well, the thing about it is that better safe than sorry. I mean, the AMMC has a lot of people employed, but honestly and truly, we're still skeleton crew in a lot of ways. Primarily because, well, we don't have the funding. See, we don't have the funding, and I can't say why that is. I know that several times that over the years we've been told, well, look, you know what, we have to pull back because things are getting tight, and so we're always the first government
You're the
agency.
First cut.
Yeah,
You're the first cut.
They're like, oh yeah, we don't need this stuff.
and you already don't get anything to begin with, so I don't even know what the cut is. Deon, thank you so much, buddy. We have to do this again, but we gotta go. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Y'all do what y'all have to do.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. We gotta get you on again.
All right, take care.
I think it was a great point that he brought up, CA, and that they are the first one to get cut. I think that's a disappointing thing. These are the areas that the government, though, has said the orange economy matters.
Yes.
The orange economy matters. And this is something that should matter to us. And that if it matters, because this is a part of tourism as well. You can't talk about tourism without culture.
I wanted to ask, where does the AMMC fall under? Is it under tourism or is it under culture?
Well, that's a great question. We actually need to get that answer. That's a great question. Where does it fall? It'd be crazy. It'll fall under works. Just to mess
Ministry of Works.
Just to mess with us, it would fall under works because we got work to do that we don't get to. I don't understand. And I also wanted to ask of what qualifies as a protected space, because some of those places are just people's homes, boo.
Yeah, old houses of people's homes. Yeah,
who live in,
who may need to be pushed down. Make space.
Or family need to start putting into the AMC bin to help us keep it upright. Otherwise, we just protecting other people's homes. Can I get my house in Lizzie?
Is there any historical buildings on Bay Street? Is there a reason why it looks like how it looks?
Well, and all I'm saying is I just need to know what qualifies, because my mother's house is historical. It was the first one on St. Vincent. I want that to be that matters.
You could get some money for that, I think. The government will give you some money.
They give you money for that, and
to paint the house, renovate it.
Because what about that one across the way from former Columbus's spot?
That can collapse.
Because the roof in. Who paid to keep that?
Nahaja. There's two. There's another one across from Cafe Matisse. Beautiful building.
Cafe Matisse. Where's Cafe Matisse?
Next to Central Police Station. Heading toward, that's East Street. Heading towards Bay Street. East Street meets Bay Street.
Yeah.
The police station. And across from the police station is one of those historical buildings there.
Oh, I thought that was a crisis. That isn't a crisis. That's a real building across the street.
There's a parking lot. The parking lot. And then next to the parking lot is a historical building. They fence it in after the roof cave in and almost fall on the tourists. But I mean, they now move that part of the roof, and it's protected now.
We protected it.
Yeah.
But we won't restore it, but we will protect it to further fall apart.
It's prime property. But I'm not sure if we could bring that back.
I don't think we can. It would cost quite a bit of money to restore it. You can bring it back, That's called restoration. But what we need to determine is what is the rate of. So history has value.
History has value.
History has value. And that's why people go NRCs and want license to dig up buried treasure or just steal it and call it a day. Yeah. And we'll come here, find stuff, take it home with them. It doesn't matter. But history has value. What do we deem the value of certain spaces? And then I think we should quantify that value, put a dollar value to that value, and then weigh it against the cost. Then determine what is the rate of investment for that value. Yes. There are art pieces. What's the name of one of our great artisans, our great artists? Painters.
Amos Ferguson?
Yes. Amos Ferguson's work, near and wide, at first glance, and I'm just being frank, I don't see it.
No,
but it's
like a child painting something,
right? But okay, this is a hot commodity, right? Where do we, how much work? Where's the museum? Have we talked about NFTs on it? Like what is our rate of return? How are we capitalizing off of this? And it's of course it's his intellectual property, it's his family's intellectual property. So then are we going to create a space? I'm just looking at return on investment now, man. I just need to know, can we make Pompeii bigger? Can we do more? We can't make Pompeii bigger. It's a historical space.
But you forget that we have a space for a national museum, and we just don't know how much it will cost to fix it. It hasn't been enunciated to the public to say, well, it will cost $40 million, and it'll take the public to sponsor it because government doesn't have the money. And then I'm prepared to do some fundraisers. I'm prepared to sell some popcorn and hot dogs.
See, so what we doing? Are we going to be doing a South for
South? What about the old jail on the library?
That's a beautiful place. Oh Lord.
Is it have any returns? The value?
Yes, it does. You can imagine actually walking into a historic jail right there next to the courts. And
clearly, you haven't been inside for a minute.
But listen,
it's a library. It's a library. It doesn't look like a jail.
It contains old paper. Okay, and we have no problem letting books, great works of art, literature get wet. Oh, we have no problem with that. Just let it rot. Anyways, we got a lot of work to do, and
I'm excited about Chris Curry being the director. I'm very excited.
Robinson, thanks.
Talking to ourselves now because news on. We gotta go.
Prime Minister Phil David is taking jabs at the Minutes administration during his keynote address.
See you later, buddy. We're out.
Take care.